whether I go there or not.
Let's learn a little bit. I'm turning on the camera over here. So anything you say can and will be used against you, or at least will be recorded. So hopefully it won't be used against you. Let's learn a little bit. We are, okay, I'm trying to broadcast this also on Facebook Live at the same time. I don't know if it'll work, but we're on Zoom together, and we're being joined from members in Delray,
It's on.
Florida, and here in Skokie. We are in Sefer Breisheet. This is our Chumash class, Perek Yud Gimel. We are up to Pasuk Yud Dalid. To set the stage for what we learned last time, Avraham Avinu and his nephew Lot part company. And we talked a little bit about what that means, about living in close quarters, about some of the stresses that come about as a result of it. And some of the Parshanei HaMikra, some of the commentators having differing views about what it meant. The two of them decided that they have to, whatever the word is, part company and go their separate ways. We saw that it was for the best, and they made this decision, but that Lot deliberately chose to move to a place that was known to be filled with wicked people. And there's an element of foreshadowing. We know this, obviously, as a result of the fact that we have already read through Parshat Vayera. So we already know the story about what happens with Sdom later on. Avraham doesn't know, Lot doesn't know, it didn't happen yet. But clearly it was known that there was something bad about that place, that the people who lived there, how they interacted with each other was extremely negative. And it wasn't because they were stuck in their homes owing to a terrible virus. It was because they were selfish. They lived in a gated community where everything had the door, everyone locked the door. And Sdom was for people from Sdom, and they were very close. The exact antithesis of Avram Avinu. I speculated last time, based on the Torah of Rav Yosef Dov Levi Soloveitchik, that maybe Lot has in mind, he wants to be the next Avram Avinu. So he has to go somewhere where his uncle is not, to set up shop and to be that person. Anyway, today we're not really going to talk much more about Lot, but to say that it is against the backdrop of his leaving that we learned the next pasuk. And if you were just to open up today, you'd say, well, it's sort of a detail on the story, the fact that Avram Avinu heard from Hashem after Lot left. But as some of the Parshanei HaMikra, based on the Medrash, describe it, in point of fact, it was because Lot left that Avram Avinu was now able to strive higher. So there's a bit of a challenging message here. Let's learn the first pasuk, and then we'll learn the next group afterward. If you're just joining us for the first time today for this shir, you can open any chumash you have in your house to chapter 13 of Sefer Breisheet, verse 14, or you can go online to sefaria.org or alhatorah.org, or find any Tanakh that's online, and you should be able to follow along with us today. So, Vashem Amar El Avram Acharehi Pared Lot Me'imo Sa Na Einachu Re'ei Min HaMakom Asher Ata Sham Tzafona V'Negba V'Ketma V'Yama. And Hashem spoke to Avraham, and it tells you, and Hashem spoke to means against the backdrop of some other occurrence, some other event. What is that? Lot leaving. Now, before we look at any of the Parshanei HaMikra, and I'm soliciting feedback and input from those who are in the Zoom call together, and if you're on Facebook Live and you're watching this, I guess, I'm not sure if it's even getting through. It keeps flashing low network connection every few seconds. But okay, feel free to text in. You just read this pasuk, this verse, without any commentary, without any midrashim. On the level of pshat, what's the relationship between Lot leaving and Hashem speaking to Avraham? Is it a detail, or is there some inherent significance?
How do we talk to them?
Just talk.
In other words, it could have just been a paragraph break. Lot left. Next pasuk, Hashem says to Avraham, "You're getting the land of Israel. Go look this way and that. You're getting the land of Israel." Instead, it's somehow the fact that Lot left is intrinsically related to what happened next. On the level of pshat, one could surmise that Avraham Avinu, since he's carried his nephew proverbially on his shoulders and has an adoptive son in his home all these years, now he lost him. He left the room. he left the stage and the story and the family. And by the same way that there was too close proximity between Avram Avinu and Lot, perhaps, the shepherds were getting into quarrels, etc. Just think what it meant for Avram and Sarah. They're already getting on in years. They're 75 and 65 respectively when they come to Eretz Yisrael. Now it's already years later. We don't know exactly how many years. Suddenly his only family that he has, he's not going to be able to go on a Zoom call with Lot. That's it. When is he going to even speak to him or see him again? Now, as it happens, he will. We know that. That's coming because of the war, the world war in the next chapter in Perek Yodalad. But it is still a question. And perhaps Avram Avinu at this moment is somewhat crestfallen. He does not have children until now. Perhaps he has figured out that he is maybe not meant to have children. His children are going to be the students that he has. His children are going to be his nephew. That's his prodigal son is not actually biologically his son, but it's his son. He raised him. As Chazal teach, Kol HaMelamed et ben chaveiro Torah, Kili Yolado, one who teaches one's fellow's child Torah, it's as if they gave birth to them. So maybe that's what's going on. Avram Avinu realizes, so who am I going to bequeath this to? Hashem assures him, it's true, Lot left, but all is not lost. Look up, look around you. You see all of this, I will give it to you. And against that backdrop, you read Pasuk Tetvav, and you realize that it's not just that promise, but also a promise to reassure Avram Avinu he's going to have progeny. Ki et kol haaretz, verse 15 now. Ki et kol haaretz asher ata ro'eh lecha etnena ulezaracha ad olam. Because the land that you see, in all these cardinal points, I will give it to you and to your progeny forever, for all time. And then v'samti et zaracha ka'afar haaretz asher yinuchal ish limnot et afar haaretz gam zaracha yimaneh. I will place your progeny like the dust of the earth, or the sand of the earth, that if a person could count that, then they would be able to count your progeny. Get up, arise, and walk the length and the width, the breadth rather, of the land. I will give it to you. And then we learn, Vayel Avraham, Vayavo, Vayeshev, Be'elanim Amrei, Asher Bechevro, Vayivin Sham Yizbeach LaHashem. So it's possible on the level of pshat to understand that Avram Avinu needs reassurance. He just suffered a terrible loss. Imagine you're stuck in your house with one other person and the person left. So now what are you supposed to do? That's Avram Avinu's situation. And Hashem tells him it'll be okay. Rashi disagrees with this approach. Rashi has actually the Medrash on his side. The level of drash, of course, Medrash is authoritative for us in many respects. Certainly in terms of the power of its voice, it represents Chazal. But of course, Chazal are not monolithic in their approach. You could have a Medrash that contradicts another Medrash. We've done that many times together over the years. So Rashi, reading from the Medrash, does not see it on the level of Pshat, but rather that perhaps, and it's a challenging idea, I think, for many of us today to accept such an idea, but that's what Chazal say. Very small Rashi, if you want, we could read it together if you have Rashi and access to Rashi. Kol zman sheharasha imo haya dibur poresh mimenu. As long as the wicked one was with him, the speech from Hashem was separated from him. In other words, Avram Avinu was suffering from an impediment to his ability to have a relationship with Hashem on account of Lot's presence. Lot represented spiritual drag. And Avram Avinu, perhaps, I would say, I hope I'm not going out too far on a limb, but perhaps this was the last phase of Lech Lecha me'artzecha u'moladecha u'mi beit avicha. This person was the last vestige of his father's house. And of necessity, he had to separate. Now, I'm not in a mood right now, based on the situation, of judging anyone harshly, and maybe that's a bias that's unfair, because here in the Rashi says, no, Lot was a Rasha. So I'm not inclined to say such a thing. Personally, like I say, oh, Lot was a big Rasha. Why do we know he's a Rasha? How do we know he's a Rasha? So you can answer simply, the Medrash says he was a Rasha, good enough. I think it's much more nuanced than that. I think that perhaps one could view the terms Rasha and Tzaddik, wicked and righteous, in relative terms. The Torah does this later on in the Torah, in Sefer Dvarim, when it wants to describe a court. It says, two people go to court, a plaintiff and a defendant, the court will justify the one who is righteous and will condemn or convict the one who is wicked. The case was a case that involved a civil matter. Why label anybody a tzaddik and a rasha, a righteous person and a wicked person? One could argue that tzaddik and rasha here doesn't mean objectively this person's righteous, this person's wicked, this person is a great soul and this person's a ne'er-do-well. One could argue instead that these are relative terms. And the relative terms that are being invoked here are relative to Avram Avinu. What is Lot? He is like a little candle, and Avram Avinu is shining like the brilliant noonday sun. But if Lot will go to a place of darkness, maybe relatively speaking, Lot will be considered a much more righteous individual. Perhaps you could see it in relative terms. Perhaps Avram Avinu, in order to have a dialogue with HaKadosh Baruch Hu on a higher, deeper plane, higher in terms of the Madrega, and deeper in terms of really having a stronger connection to HaKadosh Baruch Hu, required that he remove what for Avram Avinu on his level was perhaps static. Unlike the people Avram Avinu talked to and interacted with in the marketplaces and town squares, whom he, according to the Rambam and others, the Ramban, brought under Tachat Kanfei Ashchina, based on Chazal, that he brought people to become monotheists. Unlike that, when he's outside, when Avram Avinu goes home, he's having trouble convincing his own nephew that really he believes that there's one God, but he has to convince him that morality matters on all levels. So, in other words, he's outside, he's making shoes, but at home, he's got no shoes. Yeah, the shoemaker, the expression, the shoemaker has no shoes. So it's not entirely that way, but perhaps in to some regard, that might be what's going on. And therefore, the departure of Lot enables Avram Avinu to soar higher and to shine brighter, not because he didn't care about his nephew, but because he had tried, and the time had come to part company with him. I'd like to hear your thoughts about it, if you have any. Please share. Those on the phone, you're welcome to speak. It's not a monologue. It doesn't have to be. Debbie? No? Faith? No? Lazar's?
No.
Okay, fine. Some of my regulars aren't even speaking. Fair enough. Let's keep going then. Okay. So the next piece of this is to recognize what it means that Avram Avinu was now told to look at all these places at the beginning in Pasuk Yud Daled. Raise up your eyes and look around. All the cardinal points from where he's standing. But if you look at the next psukim, verse 17, now Hashem tells him, okay, get up and go. 15, just look. 17, walk the walk. It's in one pasuk. Contrast that with what happened at the beginning of chapter 12 when Avinu arrived in the land, where it describes in verse 6, pasuk Vav, Perek Yud Bet pasuk Vav, chapter 12, verse 6, Vayavor Avram ba'aretz ad mikom Shechem ad Elon Moreh. So he actually was walking through the land because he had the mitzvah Lech Lecha. So remember we talked about how he needed to get to the place and he wasn't entirely sure. Did he get there? So he's going to various places and then he stops. And then we have on pasuk Tet that he was moving farther south, verse 9 in chapter 12. Then he went down to Egypt and he came back. We learned previously that he went back up to where he had been before. And then we find out that he's told, now look all the way around from where you are. The area where he was at this time seems to be, as is described to us in the Torah itself, in verse 2, chapter 13, verse 2, which is in the vicinity of Beit El. So if you know the map of Israel, it's rather centrally located. And so centrally located is it that one can till today, stand in those places and look from there and see almost the entire country. So in other words, in some of the places that you stand, in what is today called the Shomron, particularly the area of Beit El, particularly on mountains, I had relatives who lived, they've since moved, but they lived in Kedumim, and I have relatives who live in Tzofim. When you're standing in these places, particularly on a clear day, you can look in all cardinal directions and see extremely far from the Shomron. You can see all the way to the coast. You can see all the way down, lights very far south. And that's quite amazing. So Avram Avinu, who of course was gifted with Nevuah, this doesn't have to mean it was Nevuah. He actually was told by Hashem. Obviously, the fact that Hashem's talking to, that's Nevuah. I'm saying he didn't just see it Baruch HaKodesh. He actually looked up and he looked around. The beauty of the land, the cardinal points of Eretz Yisrael. When you realize this, you realize also that there's something about the looking, the vision, the viewing that has some kind of staying power. And yet that staying power on another level doesn't seem to be enough. Because by the time you get to Pasuk Yud Zayin, Hashem's telling him, now get up and now walk the land. Which is it? Why the two-step? What's the significance of the one versus the other? So one of the pieces I like to go back to very often is a piece in the Netziv. Rav Talik Tzvi Yehuda Berlin was the last Rosh Yeshiva, Yeshivat Volozhin, and he gave a Parsha class every day, apparently, before Shir, and he wrote up the Shiurim as a commentary on the Torah. So he went through each piece systematically. There are a few pieces here that he puts together. And I think a few practical lessons we can tease out that even in our circumstance, in our situation today, we can apply for ourselves, each of us in our own homes, in our own way. Let me explain. First of all, it describes in verse 14, Pasuk Yud Daled, that not only does Avram have to lift up his eyes and look around, but where is Avraham? I told you geographically on the map, but it doesn't say the geography of the map in this pasuk. And what we always are asking ourselves when we study Chumash in depth is, why are the words written this way? What would it have been like had the pasuk omitted a certain segment? So the first part of this year today was, why did it have to tell us somehow it's against the backdrop of Lot leaving, and Hashem told him, now look around. Hashem promised him the land previously. Now he told him, oh, now look around. So we talked about that. That's one issue. Maybe Lot was a block on the level of the Medrash. Maybe the departure of Lot was a sign of despondency for Avram Avinu, a sign of failure on his part, and now he thinks about the mission and the whole next step for him and for Sarah. They've arrived, nothing's happening. They're losing people, not gaining people. And now I'm asking the next part of the pasuk. What would have happened if the pasuk had just said, and Hashem said to Avram after Lot departed from him, lift up your eyes and see north, etc., north, south, east, and west. You follow? But there's extra words in this pasuk. We can't come to understand the Torah unless we ask questions about the Torah. Coming to Pesach, so it's good. You have to know what the question is in order to get to the answer. Otherwise, yeah, it's another commentary. Yeah, very nice. The question is a very serious one. See from the place where you are. So right here is a good spin-off time for sermons for rabbis. The situation that you're up to, your place, your position, right? Very nice. That's not what the Parshanam Mikra do. And the Netziv Volozhin argues that this is extraneous on the face of it. And it's coming to teach us a lesson that is a crucial lesson about how we daven all the time, whenever we want to daven. And the Netziv explains, Avram Avinu had a set place in his place of living where he davened. Prayer, of course, is just talking to Hashem. So Hashem is here with us now. I could talk to Hashem right now. But what's tefillah? It's not that Hashem we only talk to Hashem during prayer. It's that during tefillah we're preparing ourselves. We're feeling more of a sense of awe. We're focusing our thoughts of reverence and of love for Hashem, and then we can start with the tefillah where we're standing lifnei Hashem. The tefillah lifnei Hashem is the amida, the standing before God. Avram Avinu, says the Netziv, did not just go out running into fields to pray. He didn't run to the forest. He had a set place, you could call it, today we'd say in the halachic terminology, a makom kavua, a set place, where he would go whenever he wanted to daven. Now, Avram Avinu, you think we have problems today. Avram Avinu couldn't find a minyan anywhere. The man was running through the country. Can I get a minyan? Can I say a kaddish? No such thing. Imagine his trouble. Every single time Avram Avinu and Sarai davened, they davened alone. They davened in their household with whoever was there. Come, my friends, let's sit together in the living room. We're going to daven. But the Netziv says, it wasn't just throughout the day, a little here, a little there. Avram Avinu understood that one is, of course, always a relationship with the Kadosh Baruch Hu at every moment of the day and night, without exception. But there are certain times when a person sort of raises themselves up in terms of their feelings of focus and their ability to block out all distraction and to stand before Hashem and have a makom, a set place. And therefore the Netziv writes, quoting the Gemara Masechet Brachot, where the Gemara there quotes another pasuk, which we'll see in a moment, I'll look it up, that really Avram had a makom kavua litfilato, shekava makom litfilato, had a set place for his prayer. And therefore, that's why Hashem said to Avram in this pasuk, "Ure'ei min hamakom asher ata hasham," means the place where you are now and the place where you always go back to. Tir'eh b'ruach hakodesh ad k'tzot haaretz. When you stand in that place of tefillah, now you're going to see to the ends of the earth. V'chein b'mar Stom. This is what's going to be later on in Stom. And the idea here is
How do you know?
The notion that Avram Avinu is walking, according to the Netziv, Avram Avinu is walking with Lot, but when he parts company with him, he is in that place. He says goodbye to him, and Hashem says to Avram right away, go to the Makov Yiramin Oto HaMakom Asher Ata Sham Tamid B'Torah V'Avoda, in the place of learning, in the place of service of Hashem. So Re'iyah Shlemazu, you'll have a clear and complete vision. And of course, Avram Avinu had visions from Hashem and Nevuah, even in places when he was not in that space, in the place of the Makam Kavua for Tefillah. But for this one, Hashem was telling him, you just parted company with Lot, go to that place where you always go, and you are going to have now the vision of the entire land from where you stand. If you turn with me in the Chumash to chapter 19 of Sefer Breisheet, I take as a given that everyone here has been through the cycle of the Torah many times, so turn to chapter 19 and look at verse 27. Again, chapter 19, verse 27, Perek Yud Tet Pasuk Chav Zayin. So just to remind you what's going on in chapter 19, pretend you didn't hear me say it, but I'm saying it anyway. Sdom gets destroyed, and in the middle of this story, we learn that Avram Avinu is watching what's going on. Why? Because he's on a mountain range, and he's looking down into the valley where the destruction is taking place. Verse 27. Vayashkem Avraham baboker el hamakom asher amad shamet pnei Hashem. This pasuk is the pasuk quoted in the Gemara in Brachot Davav, where Chazal learn that Avram Avinu kava makom litfilato. He had a set place where he davened. So the Netziv has to answer for the question of, okay, well, if that's the pasuk, how come that pasuk doesn't appear here already in chapter 13? Answers the Netziv, the difference is the Torah wanted to use this pasuk because it refers to standing, amida, lifnei Hashem. When we daven, our tefillah, broadly speaking, is anything we say that's prayer. But narrowly speaking, the definition, the sharper definition of what tefillah is amida, standing, lifnei Hashem, saying the Shemona Esrei, the amida. So Avram Avinu here is the paragon of, he went to the place where he went every morning to daven, the makom of Amida, el makom asher amad shamet pnei Hashem, to greet the presence of Hashem. In this one, says the Netziv, Avram Avinu is actually walking with Lot and parting company with Lot. At exactly the moment that happens, Hashem is telling him, I'm going to do you a special here. Here's the special. Stay where you are. Now focus yourself in Torah and Avodah where you are now, and I will speak with you and show you the entire land. So what the Netziv is doing is he's fusing both the reality that Avram Avinu has a set place of prayer and the fact that here the leaving or the taking leave between Avram and Lot enables, you could say, an uplink or really a download right there, right in that spot. This is a lesson for all of us, for each of us in our own homes now, to make sure that we have a makom kavua tefillah. It could be a dining room table, it could be a living room, it could be an office, it could be a porch, but to find a place, and that's the set place that a person goes to. You'll say, but what's more kadosh about that place? It's not that that spot is more kadosh. It's that every time you go there, if I may be bold enough to quote, it's Pavlovian. You get there, this is my place of prayer. This is my place for tefillah. It sets a new frame of mind for yourself. In shul, by the way, there's also an inyan of makom kavua. It's a real thing, even though I always try in our shul, and God will be back there soon, to remind people in the different minyanim. It's a perfect opportunity when someone is in your seat to realize, okay, I don't have a place in this world. It's all temporary, and take another seat. I'm a big talker, of course. If the rabbi comes into shul and someone's sitting in the rabbi's seat, maybe he's got to go find another job. So I don't know. But otherwise, in the pews, let's say, you know, where the seats are not labeled and there's no way to know, a visitor comes, accidentally sit in your seat. You know, people always throwing each other out, and sometimes it can be comical. The whole row is empty. There's one seat. There's a stranger sitting in it. Excuse me, you're in my seat. There's no one in the whole row. Take another seat. Okay, so I don't find that to be a problem in our shul, Baruch Hashem. I know for a fact it's a problem generally over the history of shul. I don't think it's a problem for a Torah, but I digress. I want to just throw that in. Yeah, if there's an inyan, dafka, in halacha, makom kavua. Where do you see it also? God forbid. An avel moves away from the makom kavua. An avel, one who's a mourner for a parent. So during the year, they move away from the place where they normally sit, and they sit in another row or a few seats down. That's a real halacha. In our shul, we actually maintain that on Shabbos and Yom Tov, you go back to your regular seat that you sat in all those years. But on the weekdays, you should sit on in another seat, in another row. That applies for men and for women, by the way. Okay, so that's the first lesson from the Netziv, in which he tries to understand and unpack what does it mean, or min hamakam asher ata sham. See from the place where you are. Let me pause here in case there are questions, comments, or otherwise, and if not, moving to the next piece. Go ahead. You could have to unmute yourself by hovering over your picture and hitting unmute if you want to say something. Otherwise, I'll let you sit silently. You're making me work very hard today. Usually people have a lot of commentary. Nope. Okay. All right. And someone, please, if someone on this call is in touch with Helen and can get in touch with her and figure out to give her the phone number, I'm sure she would enjoy being on a call with us and to share it also.
I did.
Oh, you did, Faith. Thank you. Okay. Maybe she just couldn't come on. I don't know. Okay. All right. So let's move on to something else here as well. 2 more points. 1, Hashem tells Avram Avinu that everything that he sees is going to be for him. Everything he sees is going to be for him. Just going to mute you over there because I hear your phone ringing. Everything he sees is going to be for him. And then 2 verses later tells him he's going to walk. Why the transition from one to the other? And do you notice there's an interruption? Pasuk Tet Zayin is just an interruption. For the whole land that you see, I'm going to give to you and your progeny forever. So the next line could have been, now get up and walk. No, instead it's, and I will make your progeny like the dust of the earth, or the sand of the earth, the dirt of the earth, the soil, that if a person could count the soil of the earth, so then he would also be able to count your children, which is also a bit of a question. If you want to give someone a bracha, why don't you just say, you know, I'll make your progeny, I'll make your descendants like the Afar Haaretz. Done, finished. We don't need it to say also, if someone could count, then your children could be counted. Why are you throwing in the if someone could be counted? Doesn't seem to be relevant, right? And then we have Kumi Talech Ba'aretz. So here also, I'm in love with the Netziv. I've been in love with the Netziv for many years, well known. And the Hemek Davar, and the version that I use, which is a version that also includes the writings of the Netziv after the book was published. Notice the Netziv published his book. It's the late 1800s. He continued writing. He did not get a second edition out before he passed away. His son is Rabbi Meir Berlin. His son, Rabbi Meir Berlin, changed his name, Hebraicized it to Rav Meir Bar Ilan, for whom Bar Ilan University is named. And Rav Meir Berlin published a slim volume that had the later writings of his father. These writings were then later published in a volume of the Hemek Davar, later volume. It's a version that was published in Yerushalayim from Yeshivat Volozhin, means the descendants of Yeshivat Volozhin, and Yeshivat Volozhin now, but I'm saying that, it's the descendants of the people who ran the original yeshiva, in the year Tafshin Nun Tet, so 1999. I mentioned this because there's a newer version on the market, which has certain benefits, but one of its, I believe, great liabilities is that it harked back to the original printing and omitted the writings of the Netziv in later life. I'm not sure why that was okay. They wanted to make a reprint of an earlier edition. So this one seems to me to be more complete, and thank God I'm blessed to have this version. Says the Netziv, we learned a principle from the Ramban, who learned it in turn from the Medrash, Tanchuma, that whatever happens to the forefathers is a sign for the children. That whatever is going to happen in Jewish history later has an antecedent beforehand. And the Netziv actually uses the expression that it is essentially like the roots of the tree and then its branches and fruits. The encoding of what's going to be on the fruits of the tree and the leaves and the fruits is really already found in the seeds and in the roots and the branches, etc. Yeah? Explains in Netziv. The reason why the gift of Eretz Yisrael is given twice is because there will be a difference between the first time that the Jewish people settled the land of Israel, Eretz Canaan, Eretz Yisrael, and the second time. Amarlo shnit matnat haaretz. Hainu achar she'anshu gam zaro yimaneh v'yu golim mitmatim yeshuv Eretz Yisrael v'yeshuva. After they will be brought to the land, they will be exiled, and then they will return. But when the Jewish people return, aval lo be'oto ofen sheyashu b'rishona b'yemei Yoshua, it will not be like the first time when they got to the land of Israel in the days of Yoshua, she'az, because in that time, nitkayen ki kol ha'aretz asher ata ro'eh. The first time the Jewish people came to the land of Israel, under the leadership of Yoshua bin Nun at the beginning of the book that bears his name, that was a fulfillment of, for the entire land that you see will belong to you. Why? Says the Netziv, Yisrael lo banu batim, the Jewish people did not build houses when they came to the land of Canaan the first time. The Torah itself testifies that when they came to the land of Canaan, the houses were already built. Umatzu hakol lifneihem, the Jewish people found everything ready. The fields were all there, the farms were set up, the houses were built. Aval begeula hashniya v'ashlishit. But he writes in Netziv, in the second redemption, meaning Shivat Sion, the time of Zerubbabel, the time of Ezra, Nehemiah, the time of Mordechai and Esther, the time the Jewish people are going back to the land of Israel a second time. And also writes in Netziv, the third time we will go back to the land of Israel. Nidaresh av litalech ba'aretz. And the second and third time, that's verse 17. Hashem tells Abraham, it's not going to be enough for your progeny to just look around and have everything set up for them, but rather you'll have to walk through the land. When the Jewish people will return to the land, the Holy Land, says the Netziv, they will be of necessity, needing to find a way to build the houses and to create the settlement on their own. The first time you could just look and see. But after that, Hashem tells Avram Avinu, after verse 16, which I will explain momentarily, the Netziv explains, refers to exile. After that, no more just looking. After that, you're going to have to get up and walk through the entire land. And the Netziv goes on and he explains. If you look at at verse 15, it explains, the land that you see, I'm going to give to you. If you look at verse 17 rather, kum hitalech ba'aretz, walk within the land. So the idea here is, he didn't say lech ba'aretz, but hitalech ba'aretz. Hashem is telling him, when you walk through the land, it's true you're going to walk through the land physically, but it's not just going to be in a natural way. The whole way that you walk through the land will not be a natural way, just simply of walking, as a person would go for some kind of a walk to get some fresh air, but rather with the power and the might of Hashem. so will the Jewish people settle the land of Israel, but they will only do so with the help of Hashem, with divine assistance. Kimosha Hayabi Yemei Ezra, as it was in the days of Ezra, says the Netziv. Shabanu ba'atzmam habatim, they had to build the houses on their own. V'kacha yiyeh v'geula ha'atida b'meher b'yameinu, and so it will be in the redemption, the future redemption, may it be speedily and in our day. The Netziv of Volozhin left the world in around the year 1896.
Wow.
He never lived to see the first Zionist Congress.
Wow.
He didn't know or meet anyone named Theodor Herzl.
Wow.
He was not, running Bnei Akiva or something. There's the Netziv of Volozhin writing his commentary on the Torah, which was, this portion was published again posthumously, based on something that he wrote toward the end of his life. Yeshiva closed toward the end of 1894, in the August or thereabouts, and by 1896, the Netziv had left the world. You read these words wherever you are in the world, to Ada Yom Hazeh, it doesn't send a chill down your spine?
Yeah.
Right? So he says that's what's going on here. You think you're going to walk on your own? It's not Lech Lecha Ba'aretz now. It's Kum Hitalech Ba'aretz. You're going to go, I'm going to help you. But you're going to have to, it's going to seem like you're just walking around. You're not just walking around. With the Ezer of Hashem, that's what's going to happen in Bayit Sheni, and especially in the Geula Ha'atida B'meher B'yameinu. There's no gainsaying that at this moment, we are not yet at the Geula. We've not arrived at Geula Shlema V'Amitit. This is not the redemption yet. That's for sure. We're waiting for Mashiach Tzidkenu. We're living in a very broken world, and it feels even more broken these days. But think about also how far we've come and how much closer we are to that Geula Shlema V'Amitit. And then it goes on. He explains it a little further about this whole idea. It's one thing to the next. There was Maseh with Simon Labanim and the like. One last piece, and that is to understand why there's a pasuk about the earth, and I'll make your progeny like the dust of the earth. It doesn't seem to fit. I mean, you could say, well, Hashem said, and for your progeny for all time. But then it's like this extra bracha. By the way, this is how your progeny will be. The Netziv says, if you understand these words, like all the other words, as part of this Mas Elot Sim Labanim structure, then it's just left to us to understand what Hashem is trying to communicate to Avram Avinu, and therefore to us, about the nature of the Jewish people at certain times in our history. The Netziv explains that had Hashem really wanted to give a beautiful bracha here that was so lofty, it might have been just as beautiful to say it's something about the stars. We find that bracha coming later. Your children will be as numerous as the stars. Hashem will tell Avram Avinu this in chapter 15. He'll say the same thing to later people in Klal Yisrael. But no, instead we have this connection to like the land, the ground. And the level of pshat, I think the answer very simply is, well, Hashem told him, look around. Then Hashem told him, your progeny is going to be like all of the earth, the sand, the dirt particle, the dust particle that you see around. Look how plentiful the land is. Look how it's just a small sampling of how great and multitudinous your people will be. Now get up and walk through the land. So it kind of, the imagery fits. It's about land and land. So don't bring in the stars. That you could say on the level of pshat. But the Netziv had another idea. The Netziv explained the following. He said that there is a statement that Chazal have that is a statement that he considers to be, you could say like, it's called a logical syllogism, I believe. If A equals B, then B equals A. Okay? So, there's a Gemara Masechet Tanit that says, Yoma de Dina ki Yoma de Mitra. Yoma de Mitra ki Yoma de Dina, right? I said it backwards. The day of rain is like a day of judgment. Why does the Gemara say this? Because we believe, as an article of faith, we read this every day, twice daily in the Shema, the second paragraph of the Shema, that the barometer in Eretz Yisrael for whether HaKadosh Baruch Hu is kiviyachol happy with what's going on, does he, so to speak, have nachas from Klal Yisrael, from his kinder? Or, God forbid, the opposite? The barometer is, how's the rainfall doing? And if there's a drought, bad sign. But when the rain falls, it's not just that there should be rainfall, but it's also how the rain falls. Because there could be plentiful rain, but if it's torrential rain and many people are hurt and injured, or if that water cannot be contained
Stored.
in a positive way, then the whole thing is for naught. Yoma de Dina, Yoma de Mitra, ki Yoma de Dina. The day of a rainfall is a day of judgment. Says the Netziv, if A equals B, B equals A, then the Yoma de Dina is also like a Yoma de Metra. Then the day of judgment is also like a day of rain. The Netziv says, when things are going well, the Jewish people, we're like the dust of the earth. We are very plentiful, and it's impossible for anyone to count us, to try to count us, and we can't really be quantified. But what happens if, God forbid, the Jewish people sin and are going to go into exile? So if the Jewish people go into exile, we sin, we go into exile, then it's like it's a day of rain for Klal Yisrael. You know what happens, says the Netziv, to the dust of the earth, to the sand, when it rains a lot on it? It starts to clod together. And what was once individual particles that seemed so plentiful now are much larger clods that actually can be held in hand much more easily and can be quantified as groups. I guess the nechama of this, however, is that if that's true, it also means that in times of exile, at times when the rain is falling, in the torrential negative sense of it, not gishmei bracha, God forbid, it's opposite, that we stick together. That we find ways to build bridges, even though there are forces that seek to keep us apart. And the notion here is that Avram Avinu is being told by Hashem that I will make your progeny like the dust of the earth. Asher im yuchal ish limnot afar haaretz. When can a person count the afar haaretz? When is that? Only when it rains outside and the little particles become larger pieces. Gam zaracha yimaneh. Then your progeny will be counted as well. And so he writes, therefore, that is what's sandwiched in between the time period of Yeshua bin Nun, of Kiad Kol Haaretz Asher Ata Ro'eh L'chayten U'Zarecha Adolam, U'Lazaracha Adolam, excuse me, and what's sandwiched in between that and Kumi Telech Ba'aretz, where you're going to have to build it on your own. In between the two are many days of terrible storms. And the Jewish people, it would seem, so many times for the negative, were counted for terrible purposes by people who are our enemies, essentially, and forces that are enemies of ours. But ultimately, the end point of that, the next part of the progression is Kumi telech ba'aretz l'arka l'rachava. Get up and to walk the land together with me, says Hashem, to its length and to its breadth, for I will give it to you. So today, when we close our Chumash, I hope we've taken a few lessons about just trying to understand on the levels, trying to understand sort of the Parshanut HaMikra about what's transpiring on these pages, these psukim rather. Just to summarize, we talked today about the fact that the pasuk references Hashem speaking to Avram Davke against the backdrop of Lot leaving. We talked about the fact that it's from the Makom Asherat Hashem, the place where you, Avraham, go to often. The notion of the looking and the seeing, whether that's physical and whether that's an augmented reality, where he's also through Ruach HaKodesh able to see everything. The idea then of the distinction between the looking versus the walking as two different moments in Jewish history. The Netziv's, I would say, words, in my view, are written al pi Ruach HaKodesh and is on his own level with divine inspiration to have seen ahead that that's what would happen in the third time as well. Other arguments could have been made, yeah? That the Geula Shlishit, the return the third time, was going to be that Mashiach was going to arrive and then everything would be taken care of. And we didn't have to build, we don't have to do anything. Could have been that. That's not what the Netziv wrote. The Netziv wrote, just like in the second temple period, there was no houses built, there was no yishuv that people had to go and do it, and it looked like doing it on their own. So to the third time, that's what's going to happen. We're living in the third time. And then finally, the last piece we saw also from the Netziv is why sandwiched in between the looking out at the land and the walking the land is this description about the clumping together of not disparate, but the vast array that is Klal Yisrael sticking together more as a result of stormy weather and stormy times. That's all we have time for today. You're welcome to join me for any of the other shiurim this week if it is of any interest. I'm giving a Gemara shiur tonight that's a little bit involved. If you're not already on the train, I admit. That's Gemara Sukkah. Tomorrow, Soul of the Siddur. I'm going to make it not 7 a.m. I'm going to make it a little bit later, most likely in a slot a little bit later in the morning. So look for the email today. I got to poll the audience. People come every week to find out what time works best for them. Then Tuesday night is going to be Q&A on the for Pesach. Rabbi Sprung is giving his women's Gemara shir as well. On Wednesday morning, Rabbi Sprung is giving the short, sweet, and deep Parsha shir. Wednesday night at my boys bar mitzvah group. That's just boys bar mitzvah group. Thursday morning in this slot, the 9:30 a.m. slot will be a Haggadah shir. And then Thursday night will be a mock Seder for people who have never run a Seder before to try to practice running their own Seder. So we'll do sort of interactive. Also with Zoom, we'll try to walk you through how it's possible to run your own Seder. And of course, it is possible. And everyone is well able to do it if you need a little coaching in advance. Okay, that's all we have time for today.
Thank you, Rabbi.
You're welcome. Wish you a great day, everybody. Have a
You
great
too.
day. Look forward to seeing you all soon. Good seeing
Bye.
everybody. Take care.
I come away from his classes absolutely elevated. I do not get that same feeling from Rabbi Saunders.